hip, knee, all of that. Then you have the tibial and common fibular nerve. These two nerves actually, they come down to the knee area and divide as tibia and fibular nerves. But in this area, at the back of the thigh from your from the hip down, you have the one nerve coming down and then dividing into common fibular and tibia nerve. That nerve is called the sciatic nerve. That is also the longest nerve in your body. And if you know of cases, people can suffer from what you call sciatica, very painful at the back of the thighs there. Usually pregnant women, when you have a lot of water and weight and that uterus, the force it pushes on kind of hits the sciatic nerve and causes damage there, so you get a lot of pain in that. So sciatica is one of those things. But remember, sciatic nerve is actually the nerve that divides into your tibial and common fibular nerve, and it's also the longest nerve in your body. Okay, so that was that table. Next, what we look at is the brain, and this is where you just got to memorize the lobes of the brains, different parts, names, and functions. We already kind of looked at some names, so when we looked at bones, we remember the frontal, occipital, all that. Now we'll expand into it and look at the functions related to the nervous system in here. So contained in the cranial cavity, the brain part, this is also the control center for many of the body's functions. It consists of 4 parts. We have the brainstem, cerebellum, diencephalon, and cerebrum. So all those 4 parts in the brain. We look into each of them and expand more and more. So look at the figure in 11.17. You'll see a medial view of the brain showing your cerebrum, cerebellum, the brainstem, which has your midbrain, pons, and medulla oblongata. You'll also see the diencephalon that has your thalamus and hypothalamus in there. So all of those 4 parts of the brain are showing right there in that picture. Brainstem is the first part we look at. This consists of your medulla oblongata, pons, and your midbrain. This connects the spinal cord and the cerebellum to the remainder of the brain. And most, like 10 out of 12 pairs of cranial nerves that we'll look at later, all of them are in your brainstem. So any damage, any small damage to areas of this brainstem can cause death, whereas damage to large areas of the cerebrum or cerebellum do not cause death in here. So there's a picture, figure 11.18. You'll see that in your textbook. That shows you brainstem and diencephalon, both of it there. One more thing, when you look at this figure in page 315, showing your brainstem, diencephalon, cerebrum, cerebellum, know a little, read through that and know the functions in general of it. Next, what we look at is the medulla oblongata. For example, this is the area at the anterior end of your brainstem, and you have all these nerve tracts ascending and descending, where we were saying from your spinal cord you have some going up to brain, some coming down. So those are the nerve tracts. So in your medulla oblongata, you have all the descending tracts going down that way. Ascending tracts are actually in your midbrain. Pons has both ascending and descending tracts in there. So in the medulla oblongata, which has all of your descending tracts, this is in your anterior part of the brainstem. It does a lot of functions. One of them is, for example, when you have regulating the heart, blood vessels, breathing, swallowing, vomiting, coughing, sneezing, hiccuping, balance, coordination. Lots of things are done in medulla oblongata. You'll see one of the things you'll find in common in pons and medulla oblongata is breathing, swallowing, and balance. They both do that, but medulla oblongata also does additional things like hiccup, sneeze, vomit, cough, and those are just some things that we know that medulla oblongata, that area, regulates or does. So this medulla oblongata is continuous with the spinal cord and contains ascending and descending tracts, mostly descending tracts as it comes down. The pyramids are tracts controlling voluntary muscle movement. So when you look at the figure next on figure 11.18, you'll see in the medulla oblongata area you have pyramids. It kind of looks like a pyramid. You know, you have these two enlargements, up to down, going down, and at the end of the pyramid we call it a pyramidal decussation. That means it's crossing over. The tracts cross over at that area, you know, which is why they say one side of the motor function is opposite in the brain, you know, because of the crossing over that took place. So if this, you know, if something in your medulla oblongata on the right side is damaged, left side in your body is what you see the paralysis on, things like that, because of this pyramidal decussations where the fibers are crossing over, going to opposite ends in the medulla oblongata. Then you go to the pons, pons superior to the medulla. Again, pons is where you have both the ascending and descending tracts. This connects the cerebrum and the cerebellum. You have pontine nuclei in the pons area, which functions to regulate breathing, swallowing, balance, chewing, and salivation. And then you have the midbrain within your brainstem. This is superior to the pons. You have an area here called corpora quadrigemina that consists of 4 colliculi. You have 2 inferior and 2 superior colliculi. The inferior colliculi are just, you know, it kind of looks like, look at the picture here on figure 11.18b. It looks like mounds, you know, like twin mounds, like 1, 2, and then 1, 2. So it's we call that inferior colliculi, superior colliculi. Inferior is involved in hearing, while superior is involved in visual reflexes. Also within your midbrain, you have substantia nigra, and which is this dark black area, and the red nucleus, kind of reddish in this area. They all help to regulate body movements, things like that. Cerebral peduncles are also there, and those cerebral peduncles are where you have descending motor tracts going down. So you have the major descending pathways, motor pathways, right in there. Another thing we look at within the brainstem is reticular formation. That really is not in one area. It's spread all over your brainstem, and it consists of nuclei. So this nuclei is scattered everywhere throughout the brainstem. But this is very, very important. It regulates your cyclic motor functions such as breathing, walking, chewing. One other very important thing we have in here is what we call the reticular activating system, or RAS, which is part of the reticular formation. That maintains your consciousness, regulates your sleeping, waking up, and all of those things. A lot of anesthetics, what they do is they suppress the RAS. When you suppress the RAS, that means you kind of don't have your consciousness, so you're in this drowsiness, sleep kind of mental place that you go into. Also, when you get a coma, it's because of your reticular activated system, you know, something not working there, so you do not have your consciousness. Then you have the cerebellum. Cerebellum, that's figure 11.19. You'll see that you have gray matter and white matter in this area. Gray matter forms the cortex, and nuclei of the cerebellum, while the white matter forms what we have the arbor vitae. It's very white, kind of like branches going inside the cerebellum. It connects the cerebellum to the rest of the CNS, connects the cerebellar cortex and cerebellar nuclei as well. Cerebellum has 3 parts, and you'll see that in the picture as well. You have